Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin O'Powers. I'm also the owner-operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to my program in which I take an individual film, and me and my special guest will kind of sit down, talk about the film, discuss it, have a conversation about that particular film. And that film can be from any different subgenre or horror or decade of horror, because we love to explore all facets of the genre because you all, as our audience, love to hear us talk about the most obscure and crazy horror films out there or the most popular horror films out there. And I bring that up because today's episode is going to be something I don't know where it fits within that spectrum, but I'm hoping that my guest will help me figure that out. Now, my guest today is going to be Mr. Thomas Tenorello and Mr. Dave Watkins. I want to thank you both for joining us on the show today.
Good to be here.
And the film we are discussing is David Cronenberg's directed The Dead Zone. He didn't write it, but he directed it from 1983. This is also a film that we are highlighting because of our special Stephen King Appreciation Month. This is our second year doing this, and we hope that everyone is still enjoying us talking about Stephen King-based films, even though eventually we will probably run out of good ones and have to delve into the bad ones.
But we're already delving into some of the bad ones if you look at the list.
But we're going to see where on that spectrum this film lies. So with that in mind, guys, I do want to know when you saw this for the first time or around the first time and what were your general impressions of this film. Who shall we start with today? Mr. Thomas, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I wish I had some kind of interesting story with some kind of dark romantic overtones to it and stuff. But by the way, before we start, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna warn everyone off the top that this episode is gonna contain graphic and gratuitous, really heavy, potentially triggering lots of gratuitous Walkenisms here. You're gonna hear a lot of really bad Christopher Walken impersonations for this Christopher Walken movie, which may very well be the most Christopher Walken ever walkened in this movie. I have to say.
Yeah, you had me excited. They're talking about all that gratuitousness, man. I didn't know what was going to happen at that point.
I didn't either. I'm like, gratuitous what?
I was like, holy shit! He may have watched a different movie than me.
But as far as first time, I'm looking back, straining my mental filing cabinet of the very disorganized thing that is my brain. I probably watched this mostly in its entirety on TNT's Monster Vision, hosted by the great legendary Joe Bob Briggs, aka John Bloom, the pioneering drive-in movie critic who had a great show on TNT from, I think like the mid-90s to about 2001. And one of these was The Dead Zone. I only remember this because I think he too had kind of like a Stephen King a-thon. I don't remember what the second feature was for Dead Zone. But
sometimes they come back.
No, I don't think that was it. I think come back. I think sometimes they came back with
Timothy, the guy from Animal House, Timothy.
Tom Matheson.
Tom Matheson. Yeah, that's not saying Timothy. I was going to say Timothy Busfield. What the hell?
Timothy Busfield was in the Stephen King movie Trucks.
Yeah. Tim Matheson. It's Tim Matheson is his name, but yeah.
Tim Matheson, yeah. But you got to put Trucks on the list just to try our patience, Kevin. But anyway, yeah.
We did Maximum Overdrive already. We killed it.
Oh yeah,
that's what we won an award for, like that I gave to us.
Oh yeah, cool.
It was like,
but anyway, that of course was a censored version with commercials in it. So then later on, I know I watched it on HBO. I had to have watched the uncensored version there, and then liked it even more. And then eventually, I bought the 4K, which has a glut of fantastic extras on it. Including a commentary done by the guys who did the King cast, Scott Wampler, the late Scott Wampler, and Eric Vespi. So they did it with, I think, like a King historian or something. And it's a fantastic commentary if you haven't listened to it. It's really good. Actually, actually, behind the scenes curtain look, guys, a lot of my facts I'm going to be calling from, and this comes from that commentary because I've seen this movie a lot, but I think I've only listened to that commentary once. But there's like 3 other commentary tracks on there. It's pretty epic. So
Yeah, I've got that release. I didn't actually listen to the commentary, so it'll be my first time hearing some of your information. But I do think that people go on the IMDb after they listen to those commentary tracks and they like dump the commentary track information onto the IMDb a lot of times. But the good thing about listening to the commentary tracks is you can confirm that it's true. Unlike when you go to the IMDb and you're like, that's probably true, but there's like a small percentage of chance that it's not.
Yeah, I used to like accept whatever was on IMDb as gospel, but lately, for some reason, you're like, there's no way that could be true. Like when we were doing Last House on the Left, like I guarantee you, like more than a third of that stuff on IMDb about Last House is just complete BS.
Maybe, but like a lot of times, like I said, I'll listen to a commentary track and then I'll go onto IMDb and look through it, and they ought to like, and on IMDb it would be a lot better if they had to give the source for whatever they're putting on there. If they had to put a source on there, then at that point it may be more accurate. They could still lie about the source, but at least you could like know where it came from. You can go back and trace it.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as the time I saw it the first time, so I used to read Stephen King books. That was like I read a lot of them, including this one when I was a teenager. Like they made us read in school, so it was like I'm reading Stephen King.
They made you read this in school?
Yeah, well, they made us read. We did get the book award, so I was like, get free pizzas. So I was like, I'm gonna read all the Stephen King books I can. So that was what I was doing. I read The Dead Zone and saw the movie. The Dead Zone at the time, I wasn't one of my favorite Stephen King novels because it is a lot more adult than some of the other ones. It is kind of the idea of what happens in it isn't as graphic, or it is more of an adult type of movie about someone who has visions. He touches somebody, he sees what happens in the future and tries to prevent it or can't prevent it. And the movie does some interesting stuff with the way that it's structured because it's almost like an episodic thing. There's like 3 different parts to it about what happens. But it's an interesting. I did make a show about this with Anthony Michael Hall that I watched called The Dead Zone. Did you ever see that?
I love the show. I absolutely love the show.
Yeah, it did really good. That was on USA.
Really well. I remember. I saw the pilot for it, and then maybe like one episode after that, and I'm just like, yeah, not for me.
I think Anthony Michael Hall did a really good job playing this character, but it was like I will say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I will say that Anthony Michael Hall is definitely closer to Stephen King's view and characterization of Johnny Smith in the books, because Johnny Smith in the books is supposed to be this tall, blonde, all-American, good looks guy. He's supposed to be an everyman from small town America. Christopher Walken is the opposite of all of that. Christopher Walken though is Christopher Walken though. He has quite charisma and he's a very unique actor. But he doesn't look like he doesn't look like his name should be Johnny Smith.
Yeah, no,
Anthony Michael Hall looks like his name should be Johnny Smith. So
yeah, exactly. And another thing is like Stephen King said, and I think the reason why Stephen King wrote that character that way was because and this is probably well known. So, for you Stephen King aficionados out there would be like, oh yeah, let's fast forward 30 seconds for this part. But like everyone knows the origin story of the Dead Zone. Stephen King was watching the news and saw Reagan get shot. And he did not like Mr. Reagan, like a lot of liberals did not. But Reagan did not die, as we all know. We live in that timeline where Reagan did not get assassinated. But so Stephen King thought to himself, is there any situation at all in which a political assassin could be in the right? And Stephen King set out to solve that problem. And he came up with this scenario
Well, to answer the question, yeah. That the character played by Martin Sheen, Greg Stilson. Really, I like Martin Sheen when it's kind of like this time period in was that you ever see that movie with Jodie Foster in it when he's like the kind of like older rapist, got a little girl that lives down the road or something like that.
Oh, little girl lives down the lane. He's in that?
Yeah. He's like the dude that shows up at the house and
Yeah.
keeps like coming back, a real creep dude. But he's
I didn't
kind of
know
reminds
that.
me a little bit of like what he's doing here a little bit.
Huh.
But the Greg Stilson character to me is a lot like the Willie Stark character from all the King's Men. You ever see that?
Yeah.
There's been a remake of that with Sean Penn in it, but it's like a populist politician who lets the power go to him. You know, he starts off as a politician that seems to have everyone's best interests in mind, but he becomes very consumed with power, and the more powerful he gets, the more people are kind of kissing his ass, and you know, it just kind of goes to his head, and he eventually gets assassinated in the story. But it kind of reminds me of that story.
Yeah, and what's funny is like in the book, from what I understand, and of course, you know, Watkins can back me up because he read it. He did his due diligence.
It's a long time ago.
I read it too, but I don't remember.
I don't.
Well,
remember
apparently in the book, it's much more of a parallelism because apparently Stephen King alternates chapters between Greg Stilson's biography and Johnny Smith's biography. So like you just get half and half. And thankfully Cronenberg wisely decided to excise 1/3 of the book, which like almost all the Greg Stilson stuff is gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's Greg Stilson. Like they do an interesting job introducing the character because he's kind of like there's like hints of him throughout the first act, and you start to see billboards of him, and there's some hints, and then you finally see him, and it's like you know he's got that creepy factor right away of like the little girl that lived down the lane character, right away, and then he we kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but basically we should probably let Kevin blow us away with the first time he saw this shit.
So see, I can't really blow you away with the first time I saw this movie because I read this was one of the first Stephen King books I read when I was a kid. It was this one, Misery, and The Shining. I kind of read within like a really short amount of time.
Wow, you just jumped right into the deep end, didn't you?
I think I read it in The Stand. It was the first two. Especially
it was too many pages. I looked at that one. I looked at that one on my mom's dresser and said, "Yeah, not that one."
It was something about it though that drew me to it. Because it was, I think I saw the miniseries or something. It was like that was the one I wanted to read, and even though, it was too damn long for a kid to reread, and it's like this thing's too many words in it.
The longest one of his novels I actually read, I think, was Tommy Knockers. I read that from cover to cover. I don't really typically read his really, really thick ones.
But Tommy Knockers wasn't that long though. It was kind of like Tommy Knockers is an odd way of structure too with that one. Odd. Yeah. They made a miniseries out of it too. It wasn't too bad. Was it Jimmy Smith's in it?
Jimmy Smith's in. Yeah. We have not talked about that one yet. Maybe one day we can get to it. We will talk about that one. So I did not see this movie when it's come out. I can't even tell you when I actually saw the movie. I did see this movie before I knew who David Cronenberg was.
What's funny about that is it's so not like a David Cronenberg movie that I never realized it was a David Cronenberg movie until this time watching it. And I saw his name in the opening credits. So I was like, oh. It's kind of like when John Carpenter.
Different.
John Carpenter directed Christine, and you probably wouldn't even know, unless you knew.
Yeah. Actually, Joe Bob asked that question during the thing. I do remember that. Because, there was he asked himself, how is this a Cronenberg movie? Well, you might ask yourself, why did Cronenberg even want to do this movie? Well, because apparently he'd interviewed him at some point, and he said that Cronenberg said that part of the reason what attracted him to this story was, I think he was secretly looking to get out of horror a little bit, because you realize he's coming off of Scanners, Videodrome, the Rabbit and things like that.
The Brood.
The Brood. So he's just come out of that. And The Brood he wrote that from a very dark place. He went through a very messy divorce. So I think he was looking for a story that was A, much more uplifting than his usual fare. And B,
No body horror.
Yeah. Because really, yes, I would say this is a horror movie, but it's really more of a horror thriller, and it has a much more elevated sensibility about it. And we'll get into that as we go along. And I think it's probably also what makes this much more accessible for non-Stephen King fans. But I think the main thing Joe Bob said that attracted to Cronenberg was the themes in the book, because he gravitated towards this idea of the mind transcending the body. And if you think about it, and Cronenberg is an atheist. He doesn't believe in the soul, but he does believe in this idea that the mind is kind of like a soul, in that it can transcend the body. It's almost like transcendental meditation, but I don't think Cronenberg would mess with the spirituality of transcendental meditation that much. But he does believe in that. And if you look at his films, a lot of them have to do with that. Scanners, especially. Scanners literally ends with a man's mind transcending his body into the body of another person. So almost all of his and that's where his body horror fixation comes from. The idea of separating your mind from your body and your body betraying your mind. So with this case, you have a man whose body is broken. At the beginning of the movie, Johnny is, he's having a date with his fiance, and everything seems like it's going to be great. They're going to get married, and he was a gentleman to her. He's like, let's not make love until our actual wedding day. It's just around the corner. Let's just
big mistake.
Apparently, but
but the actress is Brooke Adams that plays
Brooke Adams.
From Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yep, and also sometimes they come back. She of the big brown eyes.
Yeah.
But he gets into his car, goes off, and gets hit by a semi truck. Some stupid semi truck guy who was falling asleep at the wheel. Yeah, and then wakes up 4 years later in a coma. So his body is broken. He never really recovers. He's either in a wheelchair or a cane through most of this movie. But his mind now has powers. His mind can now like go into the future or even go into the past at some point.
Yeah, it usually makes contact with a person or something, and then
he has to touch them.
But
I did touch them.
Yeah, I don't want to point out a couple of things that happened before that I got to get a kick out of.
Go ahead.
The one thing that happens is the roller coaster. He's going on a date with her, and he goes on a roller coaster, and Christopher Walken's making these most hilarious like woohoo sounds. It's like I don't know. I was cracking up just because of. It just didn't sound very authentic to me, like someone screaming. It sounded very Christopher Walken like when he's screaming on the thing. But that's when he's on the roller coaster. This happens before the crash. He has a headache for the first time, so he's already starting to have the symptoms even before this crash. And
that was the thing that they mentioned in the commentary, was that in the book, in that scene and in the movie, the book is more explicit about it. There is a suggestion that he had the semblance of powers before that. And the idea was that, and there's differentiation. The title, The Dead Zone, I think in the TV series Anthony Michael Hall, they make this, they connect the dead zone with a part of the brain that is unlocked by the accident, which of course is the workings of the brain is also a big thing that Cronenberg has always been obsessed with. So that makes sense. But in this movie, spoilers way ahead of the writers, I guess, decided that they're going to make the dead zone be this part of his visions and reality that he can't see. Mm-hmm. This kind of vagueness, this vagary in reality, in alternate realities or whatever, that where the future may indeed be changed.
I feel like too, like when they explain that in the part of the movie that they do, it's like an odd reason. I mean, it's like I think Herbert Lom's character talks to him about it, but like it's like something that they already know because of what happens earlier, and it's it's something they should have already kind of thought about, I would think.
Well, up until that point, though, Johnny doesn't think he can change or alter what he sees.
But he does the first time. Like the first time he touches the lady, the nurse, and sees her daughter burning in the house, they call the cops and they save the daughter. So that, like right away, he saves somebody, and he knows that's why he tries to get away from it, because everybody wants him to help.
That's more of a reaction for him, though. He's
right.
Fully aware of anything at that point.
Right. But also, let's remember what also in that instance, he wasn't seeing that girl dying. He didn't see her burn to death. The second vision, though, second vision, but the second time he saved someone's life was the kid falling through the ice.
Yeah.
And he sees him dead. He sees him drowned. Even though he tries his darndest, but he does prevent that from happening. Although in the book it's different. In the book it's another kid who gets like trapped in a fire. But they changed it because Cronenberg didn't want to do another fire thing.
Yeah. The other thing I did, like before the crash too, he starts out as a school teacher. And he's reading Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven to the class, which is pretty cool that he's doing that. But he does
it again too.
Yeah, he also mentions they're going to read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Now, it's a coincidence, but later on he would be in the film Sleepy Hollow playing the Headless Horseman. It's an awesome movie, by the way, with Johnny Depp and all that.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't realize that. And Kevin, that movie better be on the list.
It's on there. I've signed up for it.
Yeah,
he may have taken it off though.
No, I don't take anything off the list.
Yeah,
list droves.
Really, they got a really awesome 4K version of that. It looks great.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That better be one of our Halloween movies, dude. This year, I'm calling it.
Yeah.
You started making me laugh, and I lost track of where we actually were.
We're talking about Sleepy Hollow, but but I guess we're gonna go after the crash, where we meet the doctor, played by Herbert Lom. Herbert Lom is real awesome in the Pink Panther movies. He plays Inspector Dreyfus, and they're hilarious. Here he plays a very serious character, which more often than not would play serious character. He played the Phantom of the Opera and several other. He's in a lot of horror movies that I've seen, but every time I see him, I can't help but think Inspector Dreyfus, because he's so hilarious playing that character.
You see him twitching his left eye.
Yeah. What's he called? The minky instead of the monkey. I think that's what Patrick Clouseau calls it, a minky instead of a monkey, and he gets really mad about it. He eventually accidentally starts calling it a minky himself later on. So it's great.
Yeah, I think he plays his doctor in this movie, but he doesn't show up till way late in the story. Because he said, this is a very episodic story, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah. But he is in the beginning.
He's in the beginning.
Yeah. But he disappears for a long period of time, because when he wakes up from the coma, the doctor's in there. The doctor's the only one in there, and he doesn't realize it's been 5 years, and it's kind of the doctor's breaking it to him easy. And then he kind of has a little bit of a bond with the doctor, but then when he breaks away from everything, he tries to go hide later. The doctor has to find him, and then you see him a couple more times later on.
Yeah, because he helps him come to the realization. He helps Johnny come to realization that he can always change what he sees because of the hypothetical question about Hitler, which I.
Oh yes.
So
we'll get into that. Yeah.
Well,
the old baby Hitler question.
The thing is, this character plays more almost like a conscience for Johnny Smith. It's the only person that Johnny can go to and actually tell his thoughts and his experiences and all that, because he can't do it to any other character in the movie. This is the purpose of having this character in there. It's kind of like a moral compass.
He tries to do it with his parents, but I think one of his parents dies, his dad dies, right?
The mom dies, yeah.
The mom dies, yeah. And if you notice when she dies, and I didn't notice this until I listened to the commentary and rewatched it. I'm like, oh, right after they see him on TV after he's saved somebody with his visions.
Well, he saves the girl, but he's on TV for saving the girl from the fire. But what happens at the press conference? There's a reporter who's not believing any of it. Yeah. He gets the reporter up, he touches him, and then he says the reporter something he says he knows why the reporter's sister killed herself, and the reporter's like, okay, get me out of this. He's doesn't even want to go there, because the reporter knows why the sister killed herself, but then the mom sees that on TV and has a stroke and dies.
Yeah, because the mom thinks that he's picking on her son, but really Johnny is really picking on the reporter. And that's the tragic thing about it, because she says, stop picking on my son, and as she's saying that, she's having a stroke that would kill her. And
exactly. Really... And what happens is, if you notice, there's a pattern in this movie that seemingly every time Johnny uses his powers, he basically gets punished for it. He loses something. it costs him dearly.
Yeah, it makes him sicker too. But the vision we skipped over, which is a in between, like he touches the doctor, Herbert Lob's character, was it Sam with a weird like Wiser or something, but he touches him, and that's when it shows this World War II flashback where
World War II.
like he's the doctor's a little boy, and this woman who's his mom saves him, and then did at that point Christopher Walken's character Johnny knows where the mom lives. And he tells him that, and then Herbert Lom's character calls the mom, which is it's kind of a frustrating scene a little bit, but it makes sense. He calls her, she answers the phone, and he doesn't talk to her. Then he says he couldn't do it because he didn't feel like it was right.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it's a little frustrating to me because he could have reunited with his mom, but he chose not to. I mean, what do you guys think of the reason behind that?
He doesn't want to do it because it wasn't a natural. It wasn't part of the natural occurrence in life. He got this information from someone who claims to be a psychic, and and it's like, well, if I never met Johnny, if I had never, helped Johnny, then I would never know this information. I would never know my mother's alive. I think he's just. It's a little bit of fear, but also a little bit of apprehension about knowing something that you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
What do you think? You think it would have changed things? Like you're talking about him, like Johnny getting sick, or you think the vision causes it, or changing something? Like if he was to actual connect with his mom,
I think that's a story thing because for the most part, Johnny doesn't think he could change anything. Which is why it just puts him in more pain every time he uses his powers until that last conversation he has with the doctor, where he asks him about Hitler. Then, he would say, hell yeah, I killed the motherfucker, more or less. I can't quote him because I don't know the exact words, but that's pretty much what he says.
I'll quote him later, but actually the funny thing about that is like when you talk about pain, pretty much every time Johnny touches somebody, there's a music sting. It's like a jump scare, but it almost is like he's in pain and has a sharp pain. And I think the reason for that is because the way Cronenberg did that, him and Walken worked out this thing where whenever he's supposed to get the vision, Cronenberg had a guy offset shooting a gun. Yeah. So a literal actual gunshot was supposed to be fired nearby Walken whenever that's supposed to happen. So every time they did that, somebody shot a gun.
Yeah. That's some IMDb trivia I read that you've just confirmed, which I assume was true. But I wouldn't have said it without confirming it myself. That's it funny,
is true. They mentioned it in the commentary. Yeah. And I think Walken himself has even talked about it a couple of times. Yeah, it's just one of those. I mean, Cronenberg is known for doing crazy stuff like that. I mean, he notoriously that whole great explosion, the head explosion in Scanners was accomplished by not by an air hose or any kind of animatronics. It's just by filling a fake head with blood and shooting it with a shotgun.
Yeah, I was watching like a documentary on that, and the guy that was beside him was Michael Ironside. They had him there, and they said that they had him in the shot at first, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm getting out of this shot," and they tried to get him to stay in it. He's like, "Nah," and then they blew it up, and if he had stayed in the shot, it would have messed him up pretty bad. He said it's like the chair he was in was all jacked up from the shrapnel that hit it.
Oh, good for him. That's smart. Yeah. So actors, my goodness, we've had so many tragedies since then in the past year. If you're on set and something like that's happening, your instinct tells you shouldn't be there. Just don't be there. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Oh, well, one more fun fact before we leave this part of the movie that kind of blew me away when I found out is that you mentioned the reporter who was like nasty to Johnny, and then Johnny is nasty right back to him. He's a tabloid reporter who is kind of famous in the Stephen King multiverse because he is also the main character of the story The Night Flyer. He is the tabloid reporter who follows the vampire who flies around in a Cessna and biting people's necks.
Yeah, the movie had Miguel Ferrer in it.
Miguel Ferrer, yes.
Yeah. That guy's awesome. He was in Twin Peaks, of course, played Alfred in there.
Oh yeah, it's one of the better Stephen King adaptations, but it's so obscure.
Yeah, I've seen it though. It was I think it was a made for HBO movie or made for
Yeah, it
Showtime or
was, but
something
it's
like that. Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have a decent release right now. Hopefully one day they'll get to it though.
Yeah, just a DVD version, I think, and it's out of print. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get. It's
Also,
hard to
also,
find.
oh, I'm sorry. Also, I have a question. I don't think they read this up in the commentary. I don't think anybody else has a good answer for this. Is like speaking of his power and stuff like that. I'm not sure it's always consistent because if it literally happened every time he touched somebody, the dude would just I think the dude would just wear
Yeah.
gloves, wouldn't
Yeah,
he?
well,
television show.
Because
yeah,
sometimes it doesn't happen.
yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't happen because when he touches his dying mom's hands in the hospital, it doesn't happen to her. He doesn't see her future. I mean, she's dying. Maybe she doesn't have a future, but
Yeah.
So or who?
Maybe, yeah.
Or the past. He can see the future or the past. Remember, he sees the past with the doctor.
That's right, but he doesn't get a vision when he touches her hands.
Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility that not always, but I think that it should be always. But too, like you said, the mom's dying. Maybe I almost want to call this The Shining, but it's the I would say they almost they need to name. I wonder if they did that in the show. They named it in a way, but it's like it is kind of like The Shining a little bit. But it's like maybe they're like she's so close to death that there wasn't anything left to show because he knew that she was dying.
Maybe, but the problem is he also doesn't do it with Brooke Adams later.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
Oh yeah.
He does. He doesn't wear gloves, and he touches the other people all the time.
But what if, I mean, what if whoever he's touching has to have some kind of a, like you say, it's not explained, but I think that the reason would be that whoever he touches has to have a reason, something strong, a reason to show something, something that's not right to begin with, something that
I
could
think
possibly be changed.
you know what. Now that I'm thinking about it and we're talking about it, I think what it is it's Stephen King doing his freaking research. Because I mean, there was a period in his there was a I don't know if you call it a trope, but it's not really. It's a phase, is what it is. Because there was a phase in his career from Carrie on through
the Firestarter.
Firestarter.
Yeah.
This is actually Dead Zone's after Firestarter, so. Or maybe not. I'm not sure about the timeline, but there is a rash of psychic and or telekinetic people in his books. And Stephen King did his research on that. He researched poltergeist activity and its relation to telekinesis for Carrie. And obviously, I think he did his research for this too, because one thing people who study psychic functioning have noticed is that people who tend to be I'm not sure how I would say this, but like people who tend to be who exhibit psychic functioning in a way that tends to defy scientific reasoning. In other words, people who might very well be genuinely psychic tend to be people who cannot really control their gifts. It just happens for them. I'm thinking specifically of there was an interview with Billy Bob Thornton not too long ago, and he talked pretty extensively about his upbringing and the fact that his mom was a psychic, and she wasn't like fooling anybody. Like she wasn't trying to swindle people out of their money. She really just had some kind of gift, and he would see her do it. And he said that she didn't have things would just come to her sometimes, and she wouldn't understand what they are. She asked him, "Do you know somebody with such and such a name?" And he's like, "No." And then like the next day, he met a guy with that name, so she didn't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. Say if a psychic ability was true, which is quite a possible thing, and like you've seen it, like they've seen it in situations like that, it been recorded in real life where people claim to have said something or have premonitions, and those same people don't always have the premonitions. It's not like a constant, never-ending thing. It comes when it happens.
Yeah, it's almost like if they could reproduce it, like for scientific purposes, it almost makes it more likely to be unreal.
Well, that's why like a lot of people, if it was true, that's why they can't prove it, because it doesn't happen on demand. It has to be certain circumstances will set it up. Even though this movie though it does seem to happen sometimes on demand. It happens at the press conference when he touches the reporter. And then later on, like when he's working on with the police, he doesn't, when he touches like an item, it doesn't work. But when he touches a dead body, it does work.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting too, and that's a very Cronenberg thing. It's like his power is transferred through the flesh. You
yeah,
know, he can't do it because there are some psychics who claim that they can touch an object and see what the history of that object. But for him, it's only the history of people, whether
yeah,
it's future or past history. And I think that's interesting about this particular film.
yeah. That's yeah. That, again, it's like sometimes some parts of this movie, for long spurts of time, it avoids visions and stuff. So they're kind of like they don't have like on top of each other a lot of times. So sometimes it's kind of it's almost it almost helps it not feel like it's a parlor trick or what, or it kind of helps it that it's not always happening constantly.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is like there's very few incidents in this movie where people doubt him. Like there's only like the reporter we mentioned,
Yeah.
and there's the guys the kid who breaks through the ice's dad.
Right.
The only
Well, yeah.
real like skeptic in this whole movie is this guy.
Well,
And-
yeah. I think it's because too, though, because of the way it's structured. Is he's not like a celebrity. He doesn't go out, except for with a reporter. He doesn't go out and try to make a big deal out of it. He actually tries to hide it most of the time.
yeah, like I love the scene where he's talking with his I think it's his doctor or it's his dad. He's like, look at all this. It's letters,
Yeah,
mail
he's
from
talking to the
people.
doctor in that scene. Yeah, the
Oh, he's
doctor
talking to the
finds it.
doctor.
Yeah,
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 he's like, all these people lost friends, lost children, lost lives. They want me to help them. What can I do?
yeah. But that's yeah. I mean, it's annoying to him because like all of a sudden people know he can see stuff, so they're just sending him. They're like everybody, he can make a lot of money off of this possibly, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to go back to teaching and tutoring kids. So that's what he's trying to do. Now I'm starting to talk like Walken all of a sudden. Like that's what he's trying to do.
I'm telling you, it's going to be all over this episode.
Yeah, it's been
Even
it's been kind of
I can't
sporadic
wait till
so far.
Kevin does it now.
Well, I won't do it because I've been watching Christopher Walken movies before he started doing that shtick. You make it seem as though it's like he does it all the time in this movie, and he actually really doesn't do it that often, not nearly as much as he does in movies nowadays.
Oh,
Yeah.
but he reaches peak Walken in this movie though, in one very specific scene.
Yeah, there's very specific moments with characters that he does it with. Because for me, I think they try really hard to make him the every man in this film.
Yeah, but it's very hard for Walken to do that.
I don't think it's very. I think because the way the movie is structured, the way it looks, because it really does look like it actually looks earlier than the '80s. To be honest,
it does. It does.
Oh yeah, it feels very 70s.
Yeah, it's got this very almost small town, cozy little town atmosphere.
Yeah.
And even
Oh,
when
yeah.
he moves from his hometown to another town to disappear, it still feels that same way because we aren't seeing a bunch of the town. We're seeing him in his home where he's tutoring kids, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
we don't see a bunch of the town itself. So it doesn't seem like a very big film because it's not. David Cronenberg's films in general are not designed to be that way because he loves to work with characters and not make these big, humongous films. And I think
it does get bigger with the politician. Like a couple.
Not really, because he's doing
a
a town hall. When we see him, he's more or less doing a town hall. He's not. We see him doing the parade and in the town.
It's somewhat big though. It's bigger, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying though. It makes the movie. It doesn't.
He's a senator. He's running for the Senate. He's not like running for the presidency yet. Yeah. But that's the thing is, he's a small town politician who's eventually going to amass to the biggest in the land type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that the feel of this movie that makes it feels older is mostly in the production design. Because that's one thing they pointed out in the Kingcast commentary is like they're looking at the wallpaper And I'm
Yeah.
like, who decorates with wallpaper like that anymore? Even in the 80s, that wallpaper was old.
Yeah, it was
You know,
bad, man.
especially in his parents'
Yeah.
house, and the doctor's house. It's
No, there was
really,
I saw there's some wallpaper around though. I remember seeing it when I was younger, and like it was hard to get it off the wall, man. You know, you had to get it off the wall. You almost have to take the drywall off with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
but
so put more wallpaper over the other wallpaper. So it's
yeah,
yeah. I have like, I'm sure there's like wallpaper patterns that are ingrained in our psyche that like give us that winch and this nostalgia. Like for me, it's not even a wallpaper pattern.
yeah,
It's like there's like a particular wood paneling that
yeah,
was in my my childhood home that was fake wall paneling, and I know it's fake because the what do you call it, the wood grain or whatever on it was exactly the same
yeah.
every fourth or fifth
Yeah.
plank of wood.
We had that too. We had that same
and
one.
and
Yeah,
one kind of freaked me out a little bit because I swear it was like half a face was like an evil witch, and the other half was just like nothing.
yeah. It was
But
like the
really,
knot on there, right?
yeah, like the
Yeah,
knot was her
yeah,
eye. It was
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
bizarre.
I will
yeah.
say
I had something like
this:
that.
the production designer for this film has been with Cronenberg since probably the very beginning, and still
Yeah.
working with him now, Carol Spire.
Aw.
Well, if you've looked at most of David Cronenberg's, he kind of keeps a lot of the same people working with him from film to film to film, kind of like Steven Spielberg, and his like constant. You know, I have to have. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank on the composer's name all of a sudden. John
What, the
Williams,
composer of this movie?
huh?
The
No,
No,
composer of
it's
this movie?
Spielberg's composer.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's John Williams.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's John
yeah,
Williams, but he usually use Howard Shore now.
Oh yeah.
He usually use Howard Shore, but they're very similar in that they use the same people for every one of their films, from film to film to film to film. That like they don't go out of their way to bring in new people into their club. So you know, when you look at this film, you can look at the production design, and the look of this film looking very similar to his later films like Spider or even Crash, or most definitely A History of Violence, which takes, you know, you're seeing these more home areas, and they look very similar, even though they seem a little out of place. Like it may have been filmed in the 2000s, but it really feels like a 1980s movie with the look. It almost seems it has that type of
the wardrobe's like that too.
Yep.
The ward that they're wearing.
I can't remember if he still uses the same wardrobe artist, who I think she's has won a couple Academy Awards.
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I love Walken's jacket. That coat that he wears, it's so cool. And it's so like, I remember they talk about it on the behind the scenes stuff. It's like that particular jacket has a particular collar that's supposed to be like Dracula-ish.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's supposed to make him look a little menacing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think Anthony Michael Hall wears something very similar, like the first season of The Dead Zone.
Yeah, he does. It was
Yeah,
good,
that's what I thought.
yeah.
I think and it was a many years in between this film and the television version, but there was this weird little quality that the two could almost be like sequels, like a retread-esque sequel, the way that they tried to be, what would you call it?
Homaging.
Yeah, but yes, homaging, but you know, respectful of what David Crowley, because this was a successful movie.
It was very successful, and yet, in spite of all that, for whatever reason, we don't see it like pop up on the top tens of best Stephen King adaptations.
It's, you know, and like, well, it was like weird for me because like I said, when I was younger, this definitely wasn't one that stuck out to me because of it wasn't like as showy as something like It or The Shining. It wasn't as much violence in it. Yeah. And there's also long parts where there's like where not that much is happening as far as the violent or even the visions. It's more a character study.
Yeah, but that's it though. But that's it though. It's not like, I mean,
well, I'm not saying that's. I mean, I'm saying this is my point of view. When I saw it when I was younger, I actually think it's really, really good now.
Yeah. But I'm saying like even the non-horror stuff or the non set piecey things in this movie, even the drama between is compelling as all heck.
Yeah.
Because of Walken's performance, because of Herbert Long's performance, even Burke Adams and Martin Sheen, all four of those people can
Tom
just.
Skerritt's pretty good in it too.
Oh, I forgot he was in this movie. Yeah, he's the sheriff. Everybody, literally all five of those people carry whatever scene they're in and bounce off Walken in ways that are really neat to watch. So there's no reason for us to for anybody to fast forward or work through to get through things. I mean, it's not like The Howling where there's huge stretches of nothing before the werewolves show up. It's not like that at all.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's weird the way different points of view as you watch this from then, because I do remember fast forwarding through some stuff then. I wouldn't do it now because now I'm watching it. I am like you're saying, you're interested in the characters, everything that's going on with them, and the scenes are well written, and they don't waste time for the most part.
No, it's a very tight film.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when this film came out, they didn't have a glut of Stephen King adaptations like they do now.
Well, this novel was written in 1979, so it's one of his earlier novels.
Yeah, so this one got made fairly quickly after publication.
Yeah, but keep in mind that when was Carrie released? I
think that was 70.
Yeah, it was 70s. I just couldn't remember when. 76.
76. So this came out the year after Star Wars.
So what happens is in the early 80s, you have these successful Stephen King adaptations. And that's when you start seeing a lot of them experimenting with those early novels and say, which one can we make into movies and stuff? But by the end of the 80s into the 90s, you're getting everything being made into fucking movies.
Yeah. I mean, somebody once suggested that maybe the real reason why this particular movie isn't in the top 10 of Stephen King adaptations is because it may just not be Stephen King-y enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I've always thought, that it's not David Cronenberg. It's also not Stephen King. It's almost like somewhere, some kind of in between those in a way.
It's in a dead zone. In between.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, I always attribute that to the fact that David Cronenberg didn't write this film. So that's how I always attribute it. He didn't write this film. So I consider this the movie that he it was almost like an assignment. He was hired to direct the movie. He tried to do a mainstream movie with a studio, and we all know he has not done many mainstream movies for studios.
No, he hasn't. This was his first real try at that, and thankfully for him, he succeeded.
I think I read they tried to get him to do Return of the Jedi.
Oh my God!
They tried to get David Lynch to do it too, but I think it was almost like they didn't want to do it. Neither one of them wanted to do it.
How messed up would David Cronenberg's Return of the Jedi be? Imagine Jabba the Hutt molesting Princess Leia. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be awful.
I feel like though either one of them. David Lynch's Dune, it was a little artsy, but I feel like either one of them would have had to try to do it in a different way than they would normally work.
I could see Lynch doing that better than I would see Cronenberg. I don't know whose idea was it to let Cronenberg every year.
But Cronenberg did this movie, and he did this movie in a way that wasn't like anything that he'd done before. I think he would have been like a gun for hire for Return of the Jedi too, Well,
yeah, I mean, you gotta remember he did this, and then not soon after he did The Fly remake, which in reality, nothing really happens in The Fly until the last act. It's a character movie for pretty much most of that movie, but it's so well written and so well acted that it keeps you compelled from beginning to end. But you gotta wait till the ending to see some real shit happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's body horror throughout that film, but nothing too.
It's body horror, but nothing really happens until the scene in the bar where he breaks the dude's arm, and then after that, and that's kind of right before the third act, really, because then we start getting into all the more disgusting stuff that we see. But
it is. When you say nothing happens, you mean no one's getting brutally maimed other than him. I mean, there's science fiction stuff happening. He's going through a body transformation.
Yeah,
but he doesn't start. People don't start dying until the
because
last part of it.
It's not your typical horror film of the time. It literally is not. He's not killing people like a Friday the 13th movie. It's literally just happening to him until the very end. And to be honest with you, does anybody? I don't think anyone gets killed in that movie except for him.
Well, yeah, that. Hang on,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't
Well, he
kill
does
him.
like he
Yeah.
messes up that other guy, but he does live. He like spits
Yeah.
all over him. He does John Getz's
yeah. John gets
character.
it.
He
Yeah,
does
but he
live.
lives.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's one. It is not that the Fly is not in theory like his other films until you start paying attention to the story, the relationships with all the characters, the horror.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the only ones who die in that is Jeff Goldblum and that poor monkey.
And the monkey, yes, the most violent thing in the movie is the first experiment with the fucking monkey. It's pretty disgusting, actually.
But
And going back to this movie,
yeah.
speaking of killing,
let's
The thing is, that type-
yeah.
What
Yeah,
the thing is I'm getting at is that his movies don't always have to have that type. He has his horror stories are really more of a kind of like the stuff you think about as an audience member more so than what you see.
yeah,
But I mean, the Fly to me, this movie doesn't really have body horror in it. If you consider any of this body horror, it's very light. The Fly is body horror, and I think almost all of his other stuff is too. But this one's the furthest away from any of that.
yeah. No, this was the first movie where he was kind of going away from body horror a little bit, which is ironic because The Fly, he goes full tilt back into it and makes it the most iconic of all of his body horrors. But no, that I digress. That's thank God that happened. But anyway,
it wasn't his
this
first,
one.
It wasn't his first. It wasn't his first non-horror film either, really.
Well, yeah, that's true. But also, like, let's not forget that this movie he does dip in a little bit into the sicko in the 70s a bit, because we get into the serial killer segment of this movie, in which it becomes a totally different movie. It now becomes a serial killer movie where they're trying to find this killer who kills women with scissors, which is funny because in the book he's just a strangler. He's not a scissor killer.
Yeah.
But he is a killer who is a rapist, and so we do see a little bit of gratuitous nudity there. But it doesn't feel too bad just because how brief it is, and
well, I don't mind stuff like that, but it did feel a little unnecessary, though I did enjoy it a little bit.
Oh, I'll bet you did, you perv. But anyway, like
I did rewind it back and watch it now.
But what's funny too is like this segment of the movie is characterized by, like, this is the part where like the Sheriff Scarrett comes on and says, "Hey, will you help us with this case? We're trying to catch this guy, and we got a dead body."
Let me address the sheriff real quick. The sheriff's name's George Bannerman, who is.
I'm just going to call him Sheriff Scarrett because
but it's an interesting character because he's in he's in this movie and Cujo.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's the sheriff of Castle Rock, which is a famous Stephen King town.
Yeah,
and, Cujo kills him, and Cujo's supposed to be and Cujo's supposed to be the spirit of the deputy from this movie.
What?
Yeah, but that's not in the movie, but it's in the book.
Yeah,
wild. Okay, that's kind of cool. Which, by the way, spoilers for this movie: the sheriff's deputy turns out to be the killer. But wow, I thought the poor dog just had rabies. Dang.
Yeah, but but that's in the book. But also the sheriff after him was in Alan Pagborn, who was in two other novels too, The Dark Half and Needful Things.
Yeah.
Wow.
When we're watching this one, and he said he's from Castle Rock, and he said he was the sheriff at Castle Rock. You know, I was like, I knew that Alan Pagborn was the probably more well-known one. I was like, I wonder what happened there, so I wouldn't.
I don't know. I don't know. Law enforcement and sheriffs in Stephen King stories almost never end well. So,
but Alan Pagborn's the main character in Needful Things. He doesn't get killed.
But his life is living hell until the events of that book are done. So,
it's actually that show called Castle Rock. They brought the character back, played by Scott Glenn, and he does die on the show. Yeah, he's a lot older version of the character, and he does die on the show. But that's not really canon. But Stephen King liked the way that it happened.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. But so like this section of the movie is defined by cold. Like there's so much snow. And there's so many people just
there's a lot of snow in the first half of this film.
Yeah,
I was thinking this is probably a Christmas movie or something.
There's a couple of Christmas scenes.
So. Yeah, there is. So you can pop this in around Christmas time, ladies and gentlemen. Add this to your Christmas horror list. But
I don't think there's enough in it to call it a Christmas movie.
No,
It is a winter movie though. It does have winter
It's
feel to it.
Yeah, it's so winter. It
no,
feels
yeah,
cold.
but that adds to the ambiance of the movie. I think
It does.
it adds so much to the ambiance of the movie.
It does. And I love the shot, this iconic shot where they're in the tunnel and
Yeah.
like Walken is there and the flash of the police car shining through this very wet brick tunnel, and it looks like Walken standing in a spider web. And I think
Yeah.
it's even on the back cover of the Blu-ray or the
Cool
4K.
location. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great location, but that is all like how Cronenberg's framing, and again the decision to make him more violent and more like the killer, make him more violent, and he even kills himself when they're closing on him with his scissors.
Yeah.
Which again, that's a Cronenberg-y thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in the book.
It's yeah, I mean that's the episodic nature of this movie, because you start off with Walken and some of like a few things that happen there, like the girl in the fire and a couple other and then it cuts to sometime later, and then there's like this serial killer that spends about 30 minutes messing around with that, and then it goes into the politician stuff for the last part of the film. But
and the serial killer segment is probably the one that's the most horror and the most thriller, the most suspenseful. There is like a couple of like kind of jump bits when Walken's going up the stairs to try and find the guy, and he almost gets killed by the guy's mother. And it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, but that's a very short amount of time. That's all. Yeah, I mean that it's in the background. The whole thing about the serial killer having been active while he was in the coma and all that type of stuff. But also the Stilson story is also in the background. They do a really good job setting this stuff up so it just doesn't seem like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. There's actually like a lot of time spent with the sheriff coming to him, asking him to help, and then he doesn't want to do it, and he has to think about it. Then he sees it on the TV, and that's what makes him change his mind. But there is I wrote down a line that he says when he's talking about how the visions make him feel. He says which Thomas should probably do this in Walken's voice, but he's like, when the spells come, it feels like I'm dying inside. So that's how he describes it.
The spells, they come. Feels like I'm dying inside.
Yeah, but that's an interesting way to describe it, because it makes you these spells are having an adverse effect on him, and to think about it when that happened, like you were saying, you would be wearing gloves because you don't want to feel like you're dying inside. If it means like that much dying, because people feel like they're dying inside because they're depressed, but this must be a completely different type of dying inside.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he's also depressed. There's several instances where he shows signs of depression because, even though he still gets what he wants the most, which is Brooke Adams, he gets her at least for a little bit. Because that's part of the tragedy of this movie is that he wakes up from his coma and she's married and she's got a kid.
That's tough.
She moved on with her life. Yeah. And now he does have one night with her with the kid there, which is kind of weird and wrong.
Yeah,
but
it's funny how when she unbuttons like one button, and then it's like super implied that they did something, but it doesn't even have any really physical contact hardly.
No, but it is implied that and then
I mean, it's like it's definitely happened, but it's like fun. It almost feels like for some reason like they didn't want to do a physical scene, whether that be kissing or whatever, because it seemed like it was very light. Even like earlier on, they avoid kissing in the earlier scene.
Yeah, I think maybe the reason why they wanted to do that for the movie, I don't know how it's in the book. If I know Stephen King, it's probably a lot more graphic in the book.
Yeah,
because he does tend to lean into that stuff. That's one of the things I don't like about his books. But anyway, I think they did that in the movie because they wanted to do everything they could to try and not make to make Walken's Johnny specifically more likable. They didn't want to add, they didn't want to do I know it sounds weird to say this about a Christopher Walken character, but they were trying to make him pure in a way.
Yeah, it makes it weird that she brought the kid with her. I think it would have gone a lot better had she not brought the kid. But
I know. I forgot that she brought the kid too. Like when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. I mean, I guess she had to in a way. Maybe she's the one taking care of the kid, or she could, but she should have gotten a babysitter if that was her plan.
I know. And what makes it even worse, you find out later, is that her husband is a campaigner for Greg Stilson.
Right. But it's funny in the show. The husband was actually Sheriff Bannerman, the character that Tom Skerritt plays.
Yeah, they kind of integrate those two characters for the show.
Yeah, which it made the character a more important character on the show because George Bannerman is an important character in this movie for like 30 minutes of the film. But
yeah.
But it's funny when you look it up online. They consider him the second most important character, which I don't think he is. To me, the politician's the second most important character, and maybe Sarah.
Greg Stilson is definitely the antagonist of this movie, even though he doesn't really antagonize that much until the third act, or really the fourth. Right. Actually, the structure of this movie is interesting. It's not really a 3-act movie; it's a 4-act movie. Like Act 1 is the setup, and then he gets into a coma. Act 2 is he finds his abilities, uses them to save the burning girl. And Act 3, serial killer. Act 4, actually it's 5 acts. So Act 4 is saving the kid from the ice, which we'll talk about in a minute because we can't not gloss over that. And then finally, Act 5, he confronts Greg Stilson, and that's it. It's a 5-act structure. Yeah, so I guess kudos to Cronenberg and the writers for taking a very episodic book that sprawls years and cross-connects two very different men's narratives and manages to get it into a very clean 5-act structure, which is a very TV thing, and just makes it go together. It's brilliant, really.
Almost like, though, I'd still think it might be closer to 4. You might include the opening coma with everything up until the serial killer part. But I don't know. To an extent, it is very like clearly like marked when something changes. Though they do a good job, like Kevin was saying, of incorporating the things that happen later in the film. Like as it's going, you hear a little something about a serial killer. You hear a little something about a politician. You hear a little something about a kid that falls through the ice. No, you don't. But it's
no, you do. But the Stilson is always in the background. There's even I think in the commentary they pointed out there's a scene where there's like a poster of Greg Stilson, and right next to it, and right next to that poster is another piece of art that has rockets in it.
Well, keep in mind,
which is foreshadowing.
Yeah. Well, the first time we see Stilson, we don't actually see his whole face. It's on the poster being built, and so.
But it is earlier though. That's like when he goes into when he separates himself from everybody and he goes into hiding after the cop stuff. But there is something earlier, like Thomas was talking about, where there is, you almost like have to be looking for it. But I did notice it too. I was trying to look at. I did write it down in my notes, but that does happen earlier in the film, though.
Yeah, there's something that's really early with the Greg Stilson character, really early, and it's just like background stuff that we kind of notice. By the time we get to that story, you don't feel like this is the first time you're hearing or seeing the character.
But that sign thing is interesting the way that they do it, because at first you say it's like you don't see his face or building the sign, and it goes through several scenes, and it's like a time lapse, and you finally get to see his face on a sign, like before you actually see him in person for the first time. That's a cool way to introduce a character, though, the way that they do that.
Oh yeah.
Which build up, foreshadowing, the foreshadow.
But that I guess like it did what. So what happens after all the cop stuff? Then he like I said, he goes into hiding, and he eventually starts to tutor another kid, and the kid's dad comes to him.
Well, he tutors. Well, we get the sense that tutoring is how he makes his money. He was tutoring other before he gets to the politician, the rich guy. He's already tutoring someone else.
Right. Yeah. At first, it was weird when it first started. When he's talking about what he was doing, I thought he was actually using his gift to make money, but then it turned out he's actually just trying to tutor kids and not use it.
Mhm.
But it was like the kid's dad's Roger Stewart. He shows up and he wants him to leave the house to come to his house to tutor his son, and he's like, I haven't been doing that, and he somehow talks him into doing it, brings him to the house, and that's when he brings him, Roger Stewart brings him to his house. That's when he meets Greg Stilson's hanging around in there trying to lobby for his vote, and he comes up to Johnny with a big ass button that says Greg Stilson on it, and instead of that's how he avoids getting touching his hand at that point, because he goes to shake his hand, he like slaps the button in his hand, and he's like, "Go ahead, take that," you know.
Yeah.
The button's like hilariously. He's even wearing one himself, like Martin Sheen's wearing one himself. You know, it's like a really big button.
Of course, he would wear his own buttons.
Yeah.
That's what politicians do. They wear their own button, dude. Have you seen that before?
Yeah. Do they?
I don't know. It feels more gratuitous. It feels more egotistical when he does it. I don't know why.
Oh my God.
I don't know if they wear their own buttons though. Do they? Because it was like the people around them wear the buttons. You know.
I'm not into politics that much. I don't think I've.
I think it's great that he has it on. I was like, it's funny how big it is, too.
I do know they make it pretty big though. They do make it pretty big.
Yeah, I guess you have to really catch somebody's eye, but he go, and then he's like, then he goes upstairs and he meets Roger's son Chris,
Mhm.
and then there's a scene where after that he's talking to the dad, Roger, by himself, and then he asks him. They actually watch a they watch like a show on TV, like an advertisement for Stilson, and then Roger tells Johnny that he shouldn't vote for him. He should register. He says, "Do you vote?" He's like, "I'm not registered." He's like, "You need to register and vote against that dude right there." And then which Johnny's surprised. He's like, "What do you mean? I thought you were friends with him." It's kind of like one of those you keep your friends. Was it your enemies close or something like that? I don't know.
Keep
how
your friends close.
Wait a minute. Let's keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, which is smart thing for Roger Stewart to do. This Greg Stilson's a very dangerous man, and he senses it, and we get to see that pretty soon. Right after that, we see a scene where Stilson, without. This is a weird scene because it doesn't. I'm starting to talk like fucking Christopher Walken also, but all right. So Johnny's not in this scene, which is weird for this movie. I don't know if there's a scene where he wasn't in a scene before, but it has Stilson in there with his thug named Sonny, and they're blackmailing this newspaper guy, and they threaten to kill him and all this other stuff, and that's how that's what politicians do to. You get the newspaper on their side, but it's like it shows you his true nature, which we all suspected just from the way, from the way Martin Sheen's playing it earlier.
Yeah,
we know for sure that this is really shady.
Yeah, they had to have
do with a thug.
It is funny that like Cronenberg picked that scene to be like your first Stilson scene, to be the first like peek behind the curtain, as it were. Because, like I said, like we've said, up until this point, the book has given you pretty much everything about this guy. In fact, I think the very first thing you see proto Greg Stilson do before he's even famous, before he's even a politician, like he runs afoul of some German shepherd, some random guy's dog, as he's trying to like put some like flyers on the door, and he beats the dog to death or something. He kills the dog. Like,
was that in the book? You mean
it's in the book? Yeah, that's the very first thing you see Stilson do.
Yeah,
like Stephen King was like, I wanted you to hate this guy from page one.
Yeah, no subtlety. They're just gonna kill a German shepherd.
Just kill a dog. That's how you can make someone a bad guy.
Yeah. That'll do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Some people might not like a movie if a dog gets killed like that, but it's I don't know. I mean, it's better. I think that it's definitely better not to have that scene, because it's better that you see him and you're like, you don't like him. Martin Sheen's a great actor and he's somewhat likable no matter what he does, but he's swarmy, he's full of shit right away, but you don't know how bad he is. In this scene, with the blackmail scene, you get at that point you're like, this guy is a villain. He's not just looking for, like, he's going to win. He's going to win in a way that's he's going to illegally win, and he's going to make sure that it happens, and he's got ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and because because Martin Sheen is Martin Sheen, I don't think any member of that family is particularly subtle. He does have kind of a wild eye about him,
Yeah.
and that he leans into quite a bit and leans into much more later on, and especially in the futuristic visions.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it makes but yeah, so that is all going on. Well, at the same time, poor Johnny touches the hand one time of his young student, and bam, sees him playing hockey and falling into the ice and drowning.
Yeah.
And he decides, I gotta do something. I gotta tell his dad. And the dad is like, yeah, he's like, you know what I do, right? And he's like, no, but I hired you for your teaching prowess, not for your fortune telling abilities.
Well, he did know. The dad knew. He's like, it's not like I wouldn't check you out. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's a great scene though, because the guy's like really resistant. It's weird that the dad is so, because he put all this work into setting up this hockey game on the ice that he's just like, that he's really upset that he's trying to stop it, which is weird that he wouldn't think. He didn't believe it. This is an instance where the character doesn't believe about the premonitions. He thinks that he's not legit.
Yeah, I think the guy's a bit of a control freak too. I think he's really like, this is one of those parents who probably controls everything about their son's life.
Yeah.
And this poor kid's probably like only about 13-ish. So he's just now exercising some kind of autonomy. And then, I think Walken kind of takes that and puts it over the edge a little bit when he storms in on the most Walken of Walken scenes and tries to get him to not have that hockey game, and he's like, and he gets dismissed, and Walker just loses his friggin' mind and takes that cane, that wonderful cane, and smashes that glass table and says, "The ice is gonna break."
Yeah, and it's great though. He smashes the thing, and the dad's like, "All right, you're out of here. You're out of here." And he's like, "I'm sorry about that."
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But yeah, sorry about that. But the ice is gonna break.
The ice is gonna break. Still, it gotta stop.
And then he's like, the dad's like, finally, he's like, "All right, we're not doing the hockey game, but you got to leave." And he's like, "All right, bye." He leaves, and then he's like, "Okay, kid, go get your stuff. We're gonna go play some hockey." And the kid's like, "No, I'm not doing it. The ice is gonna break." Sort of thing.
Yeah, in the end, in the end, the kid ends up saving himself.
Yeah,
because I guess because he feels it. Maybe he's got a little bit of the shine.
No, he trusts Walken's. He trusts his teacher. He doesn't.
I think there's definitely a bond. Yeah, there's a bond between them.
There's a bond between those two, and which is why he trusts Johnny. He doesn't really trust the other, his father as much, which is why you get that sense that he's a shut-in because of how he's treated by his own father.
And maybe he didn't want to play hockey to begin with, so it was like a really good out to get out of the hocky game.
Because we get the sense that he's really intelligent, that this kid is really intelligent, and that his father wants him to be more of like a sports kid. So because his father's in charge of I did all this to be in charge of this hockey team and put it all together and paid for everything, and you don't want to do it.
Yeah, because he's so rich and powerful, and because the guy playing him is so a big presence, it makes him more of an antagonist. It puts more suspense in this section of the movie, and that's what makes it so effective. And of course, the ice breaking or not breaking is what makes it really soar.
Yeah, that's And
again, that's Cronenberg changing, because that doesn't happen in the book.
Then the next day there's a newspaper article. Well, I'm sorry, before that happens, when he goes to leave, he shakes Chris's hand, Johnny does, and then he's like, "Okay, it's not going to happen now," or something like that. He's like, because he touched his hand, he could tell that at that point, he wasn't going to die. But then the next day, he sees in the newspaper that the kid's drowned in a hockey accident. So then he calls over to the house just to make sure it wasn't Chris. And then Chris is there, and the dad's sitting there in a robe, just kind of staring off into space. And he won't answer the phone.
Murder. Involuntary murder, or whatever the hell, homicide.
Involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, manslaughter.
So that's when he knows for a fact that he could stop. He can stop things if he
could change his vision.
Yeah, he could change it.
He's seeing. That's when he realizes that he's seeing the dead zone, a possible future, not something that will happen, but only might.
Yeah, and that prompts him to, the ask the question of White's his doctor about the Hitler, which I love that conversation.
What prompts that though is which is the final premonition of the movie. He goes to the Stilson rally and shakes Stilson's hand, and it goes into like that apocalyptic flashback thing that happens.
The missiles are away, gentlemen. The missiles are away.
So he's just a crazy, like, he's this thing that I've seen this in a lot of other movies where I don't know if this is the first time, but you've got probably Dr. Strangelove, but you got the president. He's the president in the future. He's got the war, like, press the button and everything is going to blow up, and he's losing his mind over it. There's a general's like really, general doesn't want to push the button, and he says he'll cut the general's hand off if he don't push it, doesn't do it, and then he forces going to, push the button and blow up everything. Because he says it's like his destiny. He feels it's his destiny to push the button. And
it's his divine destiny. He's and that's part of the reason why a lot of people have rightly said that Greg Stilson is weirdly a very kind of proto-Trumpian character.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up unless you on the YouTube brought it up. I have heard that a lot.
Oh, Kevin, I didn't want to either, but recent world events have forced our hand.
I don't agree with that. I think it's like Trump's a populist candidate, obviously. But I don't think that the way that he's presented here is a major villain. But maybe that's why Stephen King doesn't like Trump. He's so against him, but.
Well, also the real parallel is not necessarily that he's a raving psycho, because Trump's not there yet. But the thing is like Stilson's platform was that he is, and they say it in the movie, that he's a guy who's a Washington outsider who is for the working man and the well-off.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound familiar, guys?
Yeah. But
this sounds a little familiar, doesn't it?
I mean, it's also applies to the Willie Stark character and all the King's Men. I mean, this is like this is like the Hollywood's been against these populist because they're not part of these populist people, like candidates who come into politics aren't part of what's already there, are part of the established things. And a lot of times the Hollywood people are already mixed up with the established politicians, so they really don't like that populist politician coming in, because it changes everything as far as the way people are getting their money, their kickbacks.
Yeah, but then you have like the opposite end of that, and you have like the Washington outsider romanticized to like this ideal hero in the movie Dave. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie, but Kevin Kline plays a everyman who replaces
Frank Langella and Kevin Dunn in it. And it's a great movie. I like it. But the Dave character is he's a lookalike who looks like the president, and he comes in and he does a really good job. He changes, according to the movie. Because everybody's all into him while he's there. But then of course Frank Langella is like he's like in charge. His character, and the whole thing is like they're going to bring him in and be like a pawn, while Frank Langella runs everything. Yeah, that's the idea. And then of course he gets more involved than he more involved than they thought he was going to get into it.
Yeah.
So,
but we have to bring it back though from King's perspective of 80s politics, because you have to remember correctly during this time. Well, I mean, I know the book was written in the 70s. Well, no, it wasn't, because it was
79.
Okay, because when did Reagan get shot? Because Genesis of the book was Reagan got shot. It must have been.
Keep talking, and I will look that up.
Yeah, because you do that. But Reagan got shot, and that was Stephen King's impetus for writing this book. Was he wanted to imagine a scenario. The only scenario, really, in his mind.
So it's 1981 when he was shot.
Okay, so it was 81. So this book must have been published in like 82 or something.
It was published in 79 because like Stephen King has The Shining, and he knew Reagan was going to get shot. I'm gonna kid. I'm gonna
well,
verify the publishing date. I might have been mistaken on it.
that would be really weird. That would be really weird. But anyway, like, so you have to realize, like, during the 80s, I don't know if it was in the late 80s or the early 80s. I think it might have been the early 80s. There was this big arms race going on between the Soviet Union and the United States. It was almost like the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again.
So according to Wikipedia, it was 1979 is when the book was released.
That's weird.
So it wasn't like whoever said that you heard it from.
Well, I heard it from Stephen King himself, so I guess he's lying to us. I don't know.
Maybe some other politician probably got shot.
It might have been because I'm trying to think of who else was shot who survived. I don't think it was Carter. It
may not have been a president.
Yeah, it probably wasn't. It was probably because this character is a senator.
That's true.
So it's probably something like that. It was probably
true. That's true. Although it works.
Politics, so.
Yeah, well, it works. It works really well with the 80s because there were people back then who really thought that Reagan would lead us into World War III. Just like, people think that Trump's going to do the same thing now, but the optimist in me believes that that's not going to happen. Also kind of the elder millennial in me believes that that's going to happen because as I tell these youngins today who get all worrisome, I say, I've been through 7 or 8 possible and supposed end of days by now. We'll be fine. But back then they thought, oh, what if? And so this book is the ultimate what if, where we think to ourselves, what if you and only you knew for a fact that the presidential candidate, the politician, the man standing in front of you, he's going to be the guy to annihilate most of, if not all, life on this planet. It is the baby Hitler scenario, which is if you could go back in time, would you kill baby Hitler? It's the question. It's the most ethical conundrum, which is if you kill baby Hitler, you are now guilty of killing an infant who hasn't done anything wrong, but you had prevented, in theory, all the entire Holocaust. It saved 7 million people.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it'd be a lot harder to kill him as a baby or even a kid. I mean, it would be easier. It would be easier to do, but it would be harder.
Dave, if Deadpool 2 is to be believed, it would be very hard. Because if you've seen that movie, maximum effort, and you still couldn't do it.
I've not seen Deadpool 2. I've seen
the first one, it's so funny.
Oh my god!
Yeah. I know it's funny. Actually, I think I have a copy of it, but I have not watched it. But
gotta watch it, man. It's the best of the Deadpools.
Yeah,
you guys.
No, but it's it's a very interesting thought though about if you could go back and I mean, it's always Hitler. Really, I wonder if is this where that came from, the Hitler stuff? Because there's always that question. I wonder if it came. So that's pretty awesome that it came from the Stephen King book.
But it's something I've heard a lot.
Yeah,
like
I wonder.
Travel. That's like
now. I don't think it came from this movie. I think I know where it came from. I think it came from the Twilight Zone. Okay, because there was a Twilight Zone episode where a guy travels through time and sets up a sniper rifle in Munich and tries to kill like Hitler in his early days of power. He's already risen to power. He was going to kill him in a rally, and then the Nazi guys are on his back doorstep, and they're about to come in and get him, and then he bamfs out of history. And then he does it, and then again he tries to save Abraham Lincoln, and then he tries to save somebody else. I can't remember the name of the episode.
It's probably called Quantum Leap.
It's not like that though. It's one of the hour-long episodes that they experimented with that format. I think it's season 5. Okay. So I think that is where that idea got popularized. And that's, but probably academia probably turned it into the ethical exercise that we know it today. Is like if you kill somebody who is destined to murder a bunch of people, does that make you a murderer or is that justified murder? Mm. And I think with Stephen King threads the moral knot by, again, having Johnny keeps getting punished for using his power. Even if he uses it for good, he still loses something. And so with this, Johnny has to go through he has to untie the moral knot too. And that's why the scene with his doctor is so important, because he asks him point blank, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you do it? And the doctor says, well, as a man of science, as a doctor, I would have to do everything I could to ensure the treatment of life and the sanctity of life and to save life.
Mhm.
So as a result, I would have no choice but to shoot the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But it is like the scene's like it's written in a way that he doesn't answer him at first. It's a really well written scene.
Yeah.
Because he poses the question and the doctor doesn't answer it. They actually have like a lot more dialogue, and then before the scene ends, he asks him again. I think it's a really effective way to do the scene.
Mm.
Um,
But that's, I think, from that moment on, though, Johnny's on a mission. That's when he gets the gun, his little sniper rifle. He gets on the bus, and golly, I can't imagine what's going through Walken's mind or what's going through Johnny's mind when he's sitting there with the gun and the zipper thing, just staring off into space, fully knowing that once he does this, he's dead. I don't think he thought of any scenario where he comes out of this alive.
Well, no, that's part of the conversation he has with his doctor, because the doctor says it doesn't matter if doing that he knows he won't come back, he'd die, and so Johnny's already at he knows that what ultimately will happen is he will have made his ultimate sacrifice. He's not coming back from this if he does this, but he believes that by doing this, he will have saved millions of lives, and that's the reason why he was given this gift.
What's interesting in the book, he struggles with this for a longer period of time. He touches Stilson's hand a lot earlier and knows about it, and he struggles with the idea of having to kill somebody for a lot longer time. And this, it's like he touches his hand, and then you see the scene with him talking to the doctor, and he makes the decision pretty quickly, which that decision's easier made quicker than later, because procrastinating on something like that, you could talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Because you do know that you're not gonna make it out of it.
Well, I kind of chalked that up. Wait, go ahead. I was about to say, that I like the concept of all of what they do with the character, but I think sometimes some of the audience may think it's a very fast kind of thing, but I think the reason why we see Johnny held up and away from society and everything else is that he's just stuck. He doesn't know what his purpose is. He believes that he's cursed and all this other stuff until
he kind of is, though.
Well, the thing is, because he doesn't want to use his gift for good. The experience of helping Bannerman catch the serial killer and him getting shot and put in the hospital again, it just prompts him that there's no good that comes out of using this gift. And so
he even says, God's been a real sport to me.
Yeah, but when he helps Chris kind of like he's not just him going back to something he's familiar with, which is teaching kids, but it's also it gets him to interact with the world again. Like he's not alone in there. And then when he meets and sees Sarah again, who is part of Stilson's campaign. I don't know, she's not the campaign manager, but she's a campaign something because she's sitting right next to him.
She's a volunteer.
Well, no, she's got to be more than that. She's on the stage with him at the last scene, so she's.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Although I wonder if they just did that so that she could be there at the scene when it happened.
Well, they had to have the kid there at the scene. That's like the most important part of it.
Well, because her kid is used as a shield by Stilson.
So hilarious.
It is hilarious. It is hilarious. But that's the ideal. A politician using an innocent person as a shield.
What's sad about that whole thing is, Johnny gets up. He sleeps in the loft like overnight, so nobody will see him. He's got the gun. He lines up the sights. He does, which by the way, I don't think we've ever seen him shoot a gun in this whole thing. In this whole thing, he doesn't even deer hunt. He's not a deer hunter.
It's his gun.
Well, he doesn't do too good of a job either when he actually does
sucks
use
at
it.
He doesn't suck.
Yeah, he was in the Deer Hunter though. He won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
Let's just say that he was a little distracted with the first shot. But the thing is, it was his gun, but he hasn't used it or it was his father's gun. I don't know which. They don't really.
Well, here he's got a rifle. He's up on this like balcony with a pretty clean shot. it would have been a hard one to miss unless he didn't have any experience with a rifle, which I don't think he did. But
I
it doesn't
agree.
matter. He didn't need to kill him. It didn't matter.
Yeah, well, he didn't know that though.
Yeah,
We now find that out.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's just the mechanism of fate, or the god of that Stephen King universe,
Yeah.
is that he uses that tragedy to save the world in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a
I mean,
question too, though. Like that question was presented. Does he? Would you kill him? But there's other ways of getting rid of somebody than just killing them.
yeah, there is, but at the same time, those are harder, and
Yeah,
that's I think part of the problem, and that's part of the thing. I think that's the thing. Like, even though, like I said, Stephen King was trying to create a scenario, trying to imagine a scenario where to imagine the only way that an assassin could be justified is that, like, even I mean, like, is and if you think about it, this is the only way. If you were certain in that you had psychic or divine knowledge that this person was going to be the next Hitler, or even worse, because really Stilson would be worse than Hitler, because if he caused World War III, he would have killed 10 times more people than Hitler ever dreamed.
yeah. I don't think we call it World War III, but I don't know exactly what was happening, but it sounded like it was worse than that
It sounded, yeah.
because it wasn't like it was going to be like the Doctor Strangelove ending when they everybody blows up everybody. Because
exactly.
that was like that was Doctor Strangelove actually. That was the scenario. That was what was about to happen.
Yeah, that is the worst case scenario of all nuclear simulations. That's what would happen, and pretty much that would be pretty much everybody dead, except for maybe a few people who found bunkers in New Zealand or something.
Yeah. So I mean that was it was going to be an apocalyptic, like it would have been an apocalyptic world, a post-apocalyptic world had he not had Stilson been able to push the button like he does.
Well, yeah. But keep in mind that this is all in the 80s, so we were still going through the Cold War at this time.
Yeah, and the arms race, and the nuclear arms race that was going on.
You know, that was like a big horror to most people at the time. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing that this movie kind of alludes to. But before I lose my train of thought, I was going with before, was this idea that even if it is justified, which in this scenario it is, at least from Johnny's perspective, with all the information he has, this is a very justifiable scenario. You know, like, he's lost everything. It seems by all indications this is God's will for his life, basically. There's nothing else he can do. And so, but yet even that, I think Stephen King is showing, and by extension Cronenberg and everybody, that the violent solution, even if it is justified, is still not always the right solution. We only go for it because it's the easier solution. It's easier than try to figure out some kind of other Machiavellian mechanism to bring out the coward in Stilson or humiliate Stilson. Although, and that's a noble idea, because in the end, like, if we're not clear, ladies and gentlemen, like, he misses him. He shoots at him, he misses, and Stilson, in terror, grabs the baby, grabs Brooke Adams' baby, and uses the baby as a human shield. And of course, you know, Johnny would never shoot a baby. And so
luckily they were there taking pictures of everything. There's a bunch of press there. There's snapping pictures.
Yeah, thank God, huh?
But like, that plays into the whole theme earlier when they're blackmailing another reporter who has something bad to say about him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That makes it a very, very important scene, because they've manipulated him. They've set him up because they knew he was a reporter that didn't like Stilson. So they set him up with the pictures, and they're taking the pictures like what in the 80s you would see in a typical PI story. You know, the jilted you'd see these jilted lovers, or people who think that they're having affairs and setting them up with it. You know, it's stuff like that was a cliche back then, but the way it's used in here, it's very dramatic because the reporter's not a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like this with this ending, it feels like, even though the violence, like, Johnny doesn't kill him. He can't, because in the end he would be almost as bad as Stilson, but not quite. But like, and he still gets punished for using his power. and punished kind of for doing quote unquote the right thing, but yet, uh, but it's Stilson himself brings himself down by showing him what a coward he really is. But yet, history, recent history, has borne out, and they even mentioned this in the commentary, that sadly, maybe Stephen King's wrong, because the culture has gotten so bad, and the cult of personality around certain figures of late has gotten so sycophantic and so diehard believer that I wonder, and many others have too, I wonder that if this had gone down with the current president, that whether, like, if something like that did happen, like, say, maybe during the time when he got almost killed, and maybe, like, what if he did take a baby and try to do that? There are those who think that even that wouldn't stop him. That even that, like, his followers would just say, "Oh, like, God chose that baby to flesh," or and they all would try to hold up babies as like a show of solidarity with their cult leader, basically.
Yeah, I think if that had happened, if he'd grabbed a baby, it did exactly what Martin Sheen's character does here. I think it would have been a lot different scenario.
I don't know, because like I mean, years ago, like 10 years ago even, I would believe you, but now I'm not so sure. Mr. Trump has famously said I could shoot a guy in the face in 8th Avenue in broad daylight and people would still vote for me. And it's literally a thing he said. That's not a misquote.
But I mean,
So,
he's a comedian though. He's hilarious.
he's a comedian, but there are people who take him
I don't
seriously,
think
though.
Trump's a comedian, guy.
I think he
Yeah,
is.
he's not
What
funny.
he
He
says
hasn't
may
been
be
funny.
funny, but
I
it's
He
think
not
hasn't been
because
funny
he's
since
taking a joke.
1998.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think people are misquoting him all the time. Like he'll say some shit, and
Yeah, but that's
they'll come out and say it. You go listen to the actual interview, and it's like completely different than the context that they put it in.
yeah, and
Because
sometimes it's even worse.
he's got a really dark sense of humor though, which they're able to use against him a lot. But I don't
But
know. I don't think if he did something if he came out like a coward looking like that, it would have changed things a little bit. It would. I mean, they may have still voted for him, not because of him, but because of how weak the opposition was.
yeah, I think that's
But
the point. I think that's a good point, because like
because
I think, like, can you imagine, like, if Stilson, oh gosh, the only way that this wouldn't have turned around, like, if you can imagine, like, whoever Stilson's opponent was,
yeah,
we have to, like, the political rhetoric around it would have to be like, yeah, Stilson did something horrible, but the Democrats or whatever their other side,
yeah,
they never say what his party is in this
No, they
movie.
don't.
But
yeah.
let's
You know,
assume,
yeah,
That's
yeah, he
deliberate.
could have.
That's
Yeah.
deliberate.
yeah, but let's
He could have
assume,
been Democrat. You know, the Willie Stark character was a Democrat, but the parties have
yeah,
switched
Yeah,
over like from 1949 when that was written to now. The parties actually flipped sides.
oh
You
yeah,
look at
oh
the
yeah.
way that
yeah, they flipped. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because of the Southern strategy and all that. But yeah, but the thing is like, that's the problem these days, is that no matter how awful your guy is, you are convinced. And this is more on the right than the left, but I'm sure it would probably happen during Obama's administration too, but not as bad as now. But like it's this weird and I think toxic idea that the other side is so bad, it's so satanically evil, that no matter what our guy does or says, we gotta stick with him no matter what, because those guys, they're the problem. And I'm like, that's how guys like Greg Stilson get ahead. It's not necessarily about us loving them. I mean, maybe that's the way it was back during when this movie was written, maybe. But nowadays, it's like the opposite, where it's not about us necessarily loving the guy. It's about us hating the other guy. And that's so terrible.
Well, I
Was
think
that? Yeah, they definitely push hate though. That was the whole campaign for the Democrats. That was like all they had was like a lot of people don't like Trump, so they're like, and he makes himself look bad often. So that was their biggest strategy, and they had nothing else. Like nothing else they said was like. I mean, as far as I could tell, I didn't hear anything that sounded interesting.
Yeah.
They were constantly like Trump's Hitler, Trump's this, Trump did that, and it's
Yeah.
like
Hitler was smarter.
yeah. But if it's like you say someone's Hitler,
That's
and then
just yeah.
over and over and over again, it's like that's their strategy. And you see them saying that they're like, let's say this and just repeat it over and over and over again. Anytime anybody says anything, we'll say, "What about the Epstein files? Like, what about this?" And it's funny how the Epstein files flip. The
What
Epstein
about
files
our
flip
email?
but the
Remember
Epstein
that?
files flip sides though. Like when the Democrats, when Biden was in office, the Epstein files were like the Republicans were like, "What about the Epstein files? What about the Epstein files?" And then suddenly out of nowhere, the Democrats were doing it too, and it's just like, okay, well, that's like, that was like what 10, 15 years ago, but okay, I guess it's important, even though there's other stuff going on. I mean,
now we really wish that there was a Johnny out there to shake someone's hand so we could see into the future. They wish one of them will really be worse.
No,
yeah.
The way the world is in this film, and the way that you guys are kind of discussing the way the world is now, and other people have seen these parallels.
Yeah, there's parallels in 1949 too. When you look at I mean, it's always going to be parallels in politics when it comes to people. If you brought this back to like ancient Rome or whatever, it would be like it would still like register that way. There always going to be people in power, politics, someone who takes power over everybody else, and they'll do whatever it takes to stay in power.
Yes.
Yeah, back in ancient Rome, though, they didn't have atomic bombs, so that's the difference.
Yeah, well, yes, they didn't have that, and they didn't have the internet and social media.
Oh, yeah, gosh, can you imagine if Greg Stilson had the internet?
That's that's why in the film he goes like he does the door town hall to town hall type of thing, whereas nowadays we have social media. We have what people don't understand or can't understand or refusing to understand what is fact versus what is fiction.
Yeah.
It's bad, really. What we have is a polarized democracy, which is exactly what the point of the movie was. It's a polarizing thing because, like you said, Stilson is more of the populist person. He's going for not only the working class person, but also the rich guys as well. He's using the system and the needs and wants of both to get what he wants, which is simply power. We see that in this movie. Stilson wants power. He doesn't care about anyone. He doesn't care how he gets it. And that's what makes him dangerous, and that's why Johnny Smith goes after him. He sees it. He doesn't see any remorse in this character. He doesn't see any empathy in this character. He doesn't need to see that Stilson and his henchman Sonny are manipulating the press. He doesn't need to see that.
Speaking of which, about the press, it causes me to wonder, because this movie's ending is very abrupt. I don't know how the book's ending is, but this movie just like as soon as Walken's dead, credits, it's done.
Yeah.
And the credits are moving pretty fast. It's like even the credits want to be done.
It's because the main character's dead.
Yeah, that's just like the Hammer hurry up all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. but what it makes me wonder, and the King cast points this out too, is like it's what's beautiful about it is that it's a moral victory that's done in secret. It's what they call virtue in extremis. Yeah. Because like no one will know why Johnny did it. He wasn't alive long enough to tell Brooke Adams how he saved the world and why. Nobody will be. Well, I mean, maybe the doctor might be able to.
Well, no, he writes her the letter that she doesn't.
Oh, that's right.
She can't read it yet.
There is something that happens though that we didn't mention. That when Stilson, he's laying on the ground dying. Johnny is. Stilson comes over and grabs him and shakes him. He's like, "Who sent you?" Yeah. And then he reaches up and he touches Stilson's hand, and then we see the flash forward to Stilson sitting there looking at the magazine cover from holding up the kid, and then he takes a gun and shoots himself.
Yeah.
So and he says, "You're finished."
Yeah. Well, you also got to keep in mind that Johnny can see stuff that we aren't seeing as an audience member as well. We don't see everything he sees. We just see what the filmmaker wants us to see. But we know he sees more than that, because when he sees the doctor's past, he also can see where his mother currently is and what her name is, and all that, which we don't see.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
Yeah. But everybody doesn't need to know what he did.
No,
The
no,
important,
I,
yeah, yeah. The
right. I
important
know.
thing
I
is
agree.
that, yeah,
Oh, I
because the
agree with
important thing
you.
is that he kills himself. Stillson kills himself later on, and he
Yeah.
doesn't destroy the world.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, but
Yeah.
I wonder though, and this is just like it's one of those like writing exercises things where like when your story ends, can you imagine it going on like 3 months from now? What happens after that? I often wonder, like, because nobody really knows why Johnny did it outside of maybe Brooke Adams and his doctor, but like, it always makes me wonder how the media will portray his character because for them, like he's just this crazy guy who came out of nowhere
Yeah.
and tried
Yeah.
to shoot somebody who turned out to be a punk, but nobody knows that it turned out he was somebody who could have destroyed the world. You
I
know
don't
what I
think,
mean?
yeah, I don't think they would have treated his character anyway. I think it would have been, especially since he died, it would have been forgotten. It would have been like the big thing was someone shot at this candidate. I mean, it probably would have forgotten all the way because this candidate would be forgotten.
I think
You
there
know,
might be a little bit more because people knew who Johnny was from the as
Oh, that's right. Yes,
the
he
psychic
was
that
a
actually solved a serial killer case and the girl with the fire and everything like that. And since they recorded, they had the reporter incident on video.
right.
Video they don't have video.
maybe some conspiracy theorist people
Yeah,
looking back on it in the
you'd have
future.
lots of conspiracy theories.
Oh
Uh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Especially in
Oh,
this day and age, you'd have lots of
oh.
conspiracy theorists.
As far as the end of it, like him dying, almost like it seemed like maybe for a minute he wasn't going to die, and then he
Yeah,
does, and I was like, I don't know. I guess he had to die in a way for the movie to end, but
it makes
watching,
a
I
good
would, yeah,
closure.
I would have liked for him not to have died myself, but it sucks that he had to,
Then it would be
because
a Cronenberg film.
Well, Dave, Mr. Watkins, you know that you mentioned it. I did consider that when I was considering this new bit that we do now
yeah,
that I like to call franchise this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, basically this is a beta tested bit that we're starting to do now more than ever. I'm not sure when this episode's gonna air, if it's gonna air before the first time we tried this, which I believe was during Sometimes They Come Back. So if you want to see the genesis of this bit, go and listen to that if it's out yet. But yeah, so basically I imagine because a lot of Stephen King properties get franchises from things that shouldn't have a franchise. Like, what is there to use to make this a franchise? I mean, Sometimes They Come Back movies there's 3 of them at least, and I imagined if they were 10. The Mangler series is going on in like 7. The Pet Cemetery, the Children of the Corns. So like horror.
I think the Mangler's only like 2 of them, but like,
Mangler's 3 films.
yeah, but that Children of Corn's got like 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah,
And they're still going. Yeah.
dying.
The Children of the Corn will not die.
Of all of them, it's funny that one's the one that's got a bunch of them. But it's
it's so weird. But
Pet
so
Cemetery
weird.
has like 4, I guess, right now.
4.
Eventually, we're gonna have to do the original Children of the Corn just to ask ourselves how the heck this happened. But so franchise this. We're gonna try to franchise the Dead Zone. How could you make a franchise out of a movie where your main character dies at the end? Well, one way to do it, of course, is just to say, well, hey, they got Johnny to the emergency room, pulled that bullet out, and just defibbed him back to life, and he's back in the next movie. But I think that would cheapen things a bit. I'm going to be a little more, maybe a little more high class with my franchise this. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 9.
You got 9?
9 sequels to the Dead Zone. Here they come. Ladies and gentlemen, franchise this. The Dead Zone. So the first sequel to this movie would be called Dead Zone 2, Return to the Dead Zone. This features a younger cast with Johnny Smith's illegitimate son that he conceived in adultery with Brooke Adams' character while she was married to some other dude. So this kid is now 18 years old and has a football injury that knocks him on the head, and boom, he now has psychic powers just like his dad. And maybe the big bad in this movie is the principal, who's really a psycho. He's going to kill everybody at the prom. And Johnny Jr., we'll call him, and his shy girlfriend team up to fight him because it turns out, big twist, his shy girlfriend has telekinesis. And they team up to fight the evil principal, and they save the day. So that's Return to the Dead Zone. I think it would be a huge hit. Like, basically, these sequels imagine a world in which The Dead Zone by David Cronenberg was a huge hit.
Well,
And like, grossed
I do want to
200 million.
remind you though they made a Carrie Part 2 that takes place
Yeah,
in
no,
high school.
that's what I was about to say too.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's all the same Stephen King universe.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know about that one.
Well, let's see if you like the next 7 better. So I'm going.
Well, I will say there's 6 seasons of the TV show, so.
Yeah, well then I guarantee you none of this is all this is much more bonkers than anything that's probably in that show. So number 2 would be Dead Zone Beyond the Dead Zone. This one would feature a young lady.
You really going to have Dead Zone twice in the title? Like,
no, dude, this is a franchise.
Hard to Die Harder.
That's like the only word that's going to be in all of these, dude. So
but you had it twice, though. It's like Dead Zone,
dude.
You don't hear like Children of the Corn Part 2, Corn Children, or
no. The official title would be Beyond the Dead Zone. But anyway,
okay, yeah. All right, maybe DZ2, Beyond the Dead Zone.
BC. Now this would be BC3 at this point. But yeah, so this would be the third one, and in this one, I think it would feature a young lady who works in a coroner's office. You know, she likes to touch dead bodies, but not in a sexual way. She gets a massive head injury from rocking out too hard to Evanescence one time. And so she recovers, and then she has the ability to communicate with whatever corpse she touches. So that's why it's Beyond the Dead Zone. So this is now like a medium murder mystery thing, because she touches these corpses, and now she solves their murders.
Okay.
So
there's a show like that.
iZombie.
iZombie, and then also there's another one with Lee Pace in it. Pushing Daisies.
Yeah, I love Pushing Daisies.
Yeah.
This is not quite that, but yes, I see what you mean. So the next one would be even more out of the ordinary. That would be called the Dead Zone Parking, and this will be about a car that tells the future. Anyone who gets inside this car or touches this car sees their future on the road ahead of them. Or it tells the future through
like Christine mixed with the Dead Zone.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like Christine meets the Dead Zone.
Yeah.
It could be a sequel to both of them.
Yeah. or it tells the future through like seemingly random radio songs like Christine kind of does. But the problem is anyone who owns this car dies.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be Dead Zone.
Why do they die?
I don't know, like random, like.
Why did they die though? It's like
it's a curse, man. The car's cursed.
It's a curse.
That movie? Does it have multiple owners in the movie, or is it?
I think in Christine Christine has multiple owners before it comes to the guy and the novel.
But yeah. So you're like the Dead Zone car. All right.
The Dead Zone Hot Rod, we can call it. Maybe that's a better title. So like Dead Zone.
Well, I like at least in this one, the Dead Zone car doesn't have Dead Zone twice in the title.
So okay, well this one you're not gonna like because this one has the word "dead" in it twice. Dead Zone 5, Dead Lucky. This one.
Well, that's better though. It's not like you're saying at Dead Zone 5, Dead Zone Lucky. You know,
he's dead lucky. Well, anyway, this one will be about a guy who has the Dead Zone powers. No connection whatsoever to Walken's character. He's just got the powers where he touches people and sees their future. But this time, he wanders into a Vegas casino and makes a crap ton of money. And some other guy who's down on his luck, maybe he's an old lounge singer who's slid into hard times, meets this guy and decides to team up with him to make a lot of money at the craps tables. But of course, things go bad for them when they run afoul of the mob. And that would be that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that movie sucks.
Pretty sure a lot of them probably suck, Dave.
Next is the Dead Zone 6, or as I would call it, Dead Zone 666. This is the one where this is the one where a psychic who can see anyone's future or past by touching them goes head to head with a satanic serial killer.
Okay.
That's all I got for that one.
Wait a minute. So he's a psychic cop.
You got him thinking now.
Yeah. It's kind of like the first one, you know. It kind of brings back the cop, and it's a serial killer. So I don't know.
Except
that one might be okay.
Yeah, except he's a Satanist serial killer.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's good. That one's definitely gonna be direct to to video or direct
That
to
was like the
streaming,
first
but
Power, actually.
yeah.
No. What it would end up being would be like Christopher Walken versus Nicolas Cage in Long Legs. It would be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dead Zone 666 coming to a theater near you, maybe. So next one, the seventh Dead Zone movie. This would be called Welcome to the Dead Zone, and it's really just a prequel about Johnny's life before he became a psychic. So it's not really that interesting, but it exists.
Yeah.
But since the movie kind of gives the hint that he could have had, like, he was gonna go there anyways, whether or without the accident, you can kind of bring that in,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So moving on to Dead Zone 8, this would be called The Dead Zone.
How many are? I thought there's 7 of them. Well, there's more than 7.
It's a little hard to keep up with because my notes app numbers them in order.
Yeah.
So this is the 7th on the list, but it would be Dead Zone 8 because it's the sequels from the first movie.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. So this is the last one. This is the final chapter, right?
No, it's not. There's 2 more.
This is the Dead Zone.
It's called The Dead Zone, and surprise, it's not even a movie. It's an anthology series like The Twilight Zone. But it's got creepy stories about psychics and ghosts and stuff, hosted by Christopher Walken.
That one actually could work, actually.
Yeah, I could see that being made. The next one would be Dead Zone 9. It would actually be called Dead Zone 9, and it would be about a bunch of psychic astronauts who are exploring a region of space called Dead Zone 9, where apparently every ship that goes in there loses communication, and nothing gets in, and nothing gets out. And of course,
we should call the ship. We should call the ship the Dead Zone 9.
Why would you call a ship Dead Zone 9? That makes no sense.
It's called Deep Star 6.
That makes sense, though. Yeah. It doesn't make sense
Zone for it to... 9. Yeah, I guess it is kind of like got a bad connotation to it. Someone might not want to get on that ship.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, like, they go to this. Obviously, the psychic crew goes to Dead Zone 9, and of course, they find out there's like a portal to hell in there or something, and fight, weird paranormal stuff or a time loop or something. It writes itself. It's basically Event Horizon. But yeah,
what we could do is just make a TV show where bring back the character with a different actor. And then he has a different, like every week he touches somebody different and has to solve their dilemma.
You should pitch that to USA Network.
Yeah.
Keep in mind they stretched out the Stilson character arc through like I think 3 seasons. So
and then they go beyond it. It's so weird. I mean, I looked at it on IMDb. I didn't watch the whole show, but like they went on this weird secret society arc thing too. It was really bizarre.
It's what you got to do. I thought you had a secret society in one of yours. You had like a satanic society. That's kind of the secret society. Yeah, you were gonna do that shit too. You're like,
Well, there's one more. There's one. There's the last one on my list here. I gotta go Dead Zone 10, which we would call Dead Zone X, which would actually be marketed as Dead Zone XXX or Triple X, and I think we all know where this is going, folks. Because this is the final countdown of the final script of the barrel for every franchise is, the porn version. So yeah,
the sexual arousal is only peaked when you hit the dead zone.
Oh, gross! That's terrible. That's terrible.
What if?
Uh-oh.
What if a serial killer had the ability that Christopher Walken's character had in this movie?
Dude, it's so weird that you said that because the other day, and again, every content on this show is copyright 2026, Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, so nobody can copy it. So anyway, so it's all copyrighted. So anyway, you know what, Dave? I had an idea the other day where I thought to myself, what if there was a movie about a psychic serial killer and who killed people, who killed girls because he saw them in a vision, and like the vision told him exactly where they would be, and that's how he kills them. Wouldn't that be interesting?
It's going to be a bit of a downer, but it might be effective.
What
if they're the main character though?
The killer?
They start off as not a killer, Kinda. I don't know. I feel like
I think it would be.
yeah.
I think it would be interesting if it's from the cop's point of view, because then it becomes a story of where the cop has to figure out how do you catch a killer who already knows that he's going to succeed. Like, how do you? Because like that's the thing about fate. This idea of if he's psychic, he already knows that he's going to succeed in his killings because he's seen it already, and then it becomes the question of can you change fate? And the cop who doesn't have any psychic abilities, who probably doesn't even believe any of this stuff, has to like figure out how do I stop this guy. Well, of course, at the beginning, he's like clearly he's crazy, and he has to prove it to himself whether it's real or not. And it could be a thing.
It feels like a little bit like the first Power or Hideaway. It feels like that. Those
Hideaway, Jeff Goldblum in that, right?
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum and Jeremy Sisto.
Jeff Goldblum, yes. Wow.
Yeah, that's you tell it from the serial killer's point of view. It makes it tougher to get behind him, but you do have to have a cop character in there, but maybe like not the main character. Maybe he just comes across him. But it has to be developed in some other way, because I think if you told it from the cop's point of view, it's going to be like a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to.
Well, I mean, it could be.
Plus,
like a modern.
The cop has to find out during the course of it that the guy can see the future.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it makes it so it's like it ends up being a reveal, which is not going to be that interesting of a reveal.
We could workshop that later, dude. We gotta finish the show here. This is not Tom pitches ideas over the interweb.
No, this is all about Cronenberg's The Dead Zone. And is there any other things that we need to discuss about the film?
Of course there is. We could talk about how Arnold Schwarzenegger could have done that last line a little better, because you're finished. It's a little meh. Don't you think? He could have finessed that a little bit, right, guys?
Well, if you have a couple of those, yes, we'll add those in. Go ahead.
I got 5 of these, Kevin, so here they go. Number 1. He's lying on the ground dying. Stillson's like, who sent you? And he says, next time you try to use a baby as a human shield, make sure it's your own baby. Dead. Number 2.
What? All right, go ahead.
Make sure it's your own baby. I don't know why that sounded much funnier to me earlier, but anyway, here we go.
Just like I liked half of it, but when it's make sure it's your own baby, I'm just like, I'm overthinking it. Go ahead.
You are overthinking it. Anyway,
I think it's late.
I certainly didn't overthink it. Number 2. Don't worry, Stillson. You can still run for president of hell.
Okay.
Number 3. Some bullets take longer to hit the target. That one's a little poetic,
Yeah. That was not funny, but that's it's a
little poetic there, yeah. Just thought I'd change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, last 2. Number 4. Looks like you won't be starting any apocalypse now.
Yeah, all right, it's not bad.
Because it's Martin.
Yeah. That's a lot. There's a lot to that one. Yeah. You thought about that one.
I did.
Like, no, you thought about that one.
Yeah. It's a whole lot smarter than the final one, which is, Stillson, you won't be back. And that's it. That's my Schwarzenegger alternators for The Dead Zone, starring Christopher Walken. Directed by David Cronenberg. Written originally by Stephen King.
I do want to thank you both for having this conversation about The Dead Zone. So everybody, at this point in our conversation, what we love to do is we love to rate the film between 1 and 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we love to do is pick an object, quote, or saying from the film in order to attribute to our rating. What is your rating, and what object, quote, or saying would you like to attribute to your rating? And we're going to start with Dave.
I will be stealing the scissors for my
good choice.
My pick here.
Good choice.
Yeah, I'll give it 4 scissors.
Okay. How about you, Thomas?
Well, I thought about maybe doing his cane, because it's a neat little cane. And there's a lot of other things we could do, but honestly, I think ultimately the ice is gonna break. And I think I would pick The Broken Ice. So I'm gonna rate this movie 4 broken ices out of 5. It's a classic. I do not. There's a few nitpicky things here and there about it, and it also maybe doesn't quite reach the stylistic heights of, say, Dead Ringers or The Fly, or any of Cronenberg's other later masterpieces. But honestly, this is top tier adaptation of the Stephen King work for me. It is the one like Walken performance that I think of when I think of Walken's. And weirdly enough, this is one of the few times in Walken's career where he plays a good guy and he does it effectively. And that's saying something. Because most of us like to have the stereotypical view of Walken as the bad guy, the heavy, the crazy guy who says weird, funny things randomly and says, wow. But no, this is different most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he definitely was earlier in his career when he was playing these type of characters more often before he kind of became more typecast.
Yeah,
Podcast, because he does a little bit of all types of characters all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when he's doing the random comedies, or he does a lot of stuff.
But he's got a point though. He does play off of that. He does kind of become a little bit of a caricature in some of his stuff, but he's always entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Even in the plethora of prophecy movies. Another endless cycle of franchise.
He's in 3 of those. Even the third one, which he's still entertaining because
he's not in the last 2. Is he only in the first 3?
There's 5 of them total, and he's not in the last
5.
2. Yeah, he's not in the last 2 of them.
I only ever saw those once, dude. I don't remember those.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I remember the first one really good, but
I saw it.
I
love that
too.
movie.
It's really good, but yeah.
So I'm gonna give it 4, and I forgot what I was gonna give it 4, but I'm gonna give it. Oh, I know. I'm gonna give it 4. Using babies as shields. Okay.
Human shield babies.
Yeah,
shield babies.
I think I think that the ending's like the only thing I like the idea of the ending. I just don't like the abrupt ending because it feels like it doesn't quite have the closure that you need for it to sit quite right. But overall, I do like the film though.
I love the movie enough that I really ended up watching the show when it first came out, and I loved the show. The ideals in this film were better handled and explained and emphasized in the show as the show went on, because they had more time to do it in. And when I went back to rewatch this film, I thought I was not going to like it as much, but I do like the way that the story is structured for this particular story, and all the little hints that are early in the film that kind of lead and segue into the other segments of the film, like we've been talking about. This is a very almost segmented film, but the way all of those elements and story and visual cues are there makes this a very well put together film. It is not one of your typical Cronenberg films. We will see. This is not, but then again, even Cronenberg has done non-typical Cronenberg before. This is not the first time he's done this, and it won't be his last. And so I look forward to that. So with that, I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation about David Cronenberg's The Dead Zone from author Stephen King. Please check out all the other amazing episodes in which we are discussing other films adapted from the works of Stephen King. There are plenty of them out there, not only from this year and this month, but also from last year and previous years before that. With that, I want you to like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And please make sure to check out our other podcasts, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, in which we delve into the amazing oeuvre that is the 60s, 70s, and 80s of the Hammer Studio horror films. If you like classic horror films, you will love that one. We have a really great time discussing those type of films. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, I want to wish you a pleasant day, and just stay out of the dead zone, people.
Wow.
Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.